Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, shockingly enough, GamingGang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everyone. Tonight is Thursday, July 2nd, 2026. This is live show 1339. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out it's super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop role-playing game news. And then we will normally jump on in and tackle a topic, which is what we'll be doing tonight. Yes. Like I said, we're just having fun, just hanging out. We are certainly not engaged in anything strenuous like rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. Now, of course, when you're not watching videos here on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are never going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Also, because this is a live show, there is chat available. Now, you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least an hour before you can take part in chat. But if you check off that box and you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my absolute best to respond. First out the gate tonight is Keith Thule, who will own his cave, is with us as his Captain Infinity Time Travel Police. And I would not be shocked if the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D is lurking in the shadows as one of our chat moderators. That is a possibility. I see DJ Jazzy Jedi is with us again. So, some comments already about tonight's topic. So, tonight's topic is going to be I guess we'll kind of run it more along the lines of what are some different kinds of apocalypses and how they drive post-apocalyptic role-playing games. And of course, those of you who are watching live can chime in with your favorites, what you enjoy, what kind of post-apocalyptic setting or what apocalypse you like most. But wait until we get to the topic. Because I know a lot of times people just start tossing out their thoughts on the topic before we even get into the news of the night. So hold on there a minute, Baba Louie. We'll get to it. I see Matthew Blackwell's with us. Matt Cirrhosis is also joining us. And I think I've said hello to everybody so far. Yes. Miss Sarah D is with us, saying it's hot enough they might turn into a mist. Yeah, it's mid-90s here in the Chicago area with some humidity as well. Yes. Yeah, so Matt Cirrhosis says they're going to save me the trouble and say it's probably their first time in chat. Well, welcome. Make yourself comfortable. Zarquan's with us, as is Valamir Cleaver. So we've got the chat rocking and rolling already. So let's dive on into the news, because Chaosium Inc. has revealed a new role-playing game system is going to be hitting backer kits soon. There's already a quick start available. It clocks in, I think it's about 80 pages, actually. You can check it out ahead of time. So here's what I know about Time Without Tide mirth and misery in the world of fog. Time Without Tide is a tabletop role-playing game of exploration and adventure within a fog-shrouded, faux Victorian post-apocalyptic world. You're a delver, one of the determined heroes who journey beyond fortified walls on fantastic voyages into the world of fog. Lanterns held high to ward off the unknown. You'll face bizarre horrors, discover glimmering marvels, and protect the odd survivors of the fallen moon. Time Without Tide blends character-driven intrigue, grand voyages, and strategic tactical combat. Use diplomacy and creativity to explore the richly detailed world of fog. Then use a highly customizable character development system to reinforce your bark with bite. See those poor hungry orphans? They seem so sad, cold, and vulnerable. Don't you want to take them in, give them a better life? Don't be fooled. They're orphans by choice. They killed their parents and got a taste for parricide. Sign those adoption papers, and you'll be next. It's an entirely new system and setting with open character generation. Make the Delver you want. You'll find a bestiary packed with strange, fog-shaped monsters. It's a huge world filled with mystery and adventure. And you'll also find items, vehicles, companions, features, and strange adaptations that mutate your Delver, granting them bizarre powers. You'll even find gorgeous artwork created by a team of cartographers and illustrators. Now, there's even expanded support, including a free scenario in the Time Without Tide Quick Start. And of course, stay tuned because I will bring you the news when Time Without Tide launches on backer kits. It must not be too close to launching because there was no mention as of yet. Maybe after Gen Con? Maybe Chaosium Inc. will devote some time to kind of getting word out at Gen Con. I am in the middle of trying to set up my interviews for Gen Con, so I still have to reach out so I can set up my annual interview with Chaosium Inc. But I have reached out to my pals at Cubicle 7 Games, as well as Monte Cook Games, Cobalt Press. So I'm hoping to put together maybe about a dozen interviews again, like I normally do. Honestly, I would set up more interviews, but Elliot is my cameraman, and yeah, about 4 interviews a day, 4 or 5 interviews a day are about his limit before his patience wears out. So DJ Jazzy Jedi says they're a fellow melting Chicagoan. Well, welcome to hell. Actually, it's been fine inside. We've just got the AC going and a dehumidifier going as well. Keithula says it's hot as usual in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Tell you, one of the worst places heat-wise I ever was in, and it was only for a very short period, and that was Houston. Not only was it super hot, it was just insanely humid. It was like, you'd walk out the door and it was like swamp. I was like, oh my gosh. Flint Fireforge says it's a very hot Boston. Yeah, it's pretty hot everywhere, I think. So we also have Mark Hawkswell joining us. Welcome back. Moonride Long, the latest supplement for the Old Gods of Appalachia role-playing game, is landing in stores from Monte Cook Games. I've got the lowdown on Come Hell or High Water. Hearth, Home, and Horror. Adventures in sites familiar, eerie, and eerily familiar. You know the rule of 3, don't you? Well, this book brings you 3 adventurous additions to your Old Gods of Appalachia game. Several complete adventures ready to pick up and run. A handful of new sites that conveniently bring Appalachian detail to your campaign. as well as an in-depth look at some of the locales you know and love from the podcast, written by the creators themselves. And like all rules of 3, there's a little surprise tucked in as well. A chapter all about crafting your own adventures, filling them with chills, engaging twists, and the haunting authenticity your players will love. Each of these sections is full of dangers and delights, sure to entrance and enthrall your players, and maybe, possibly, dare we say almost certainly, give them a scare. Or 4. Inside this book, you'll find great advice for building your own adventures for your own Old Gods campaign, or really any horror game. Familiar sites like the Walker House, the Clutch, and the Devil's Divide, fully fleshed out for use in your game, and written by Cam Collins and Steve Shell, the creators of Old Gods of Appalachia. Additional sites ready to be placed anywhere in your campaign, each oozing with atmosphere and detail. Visit a factory town, venture into a haunted wood, or stay at the hotel beside the drowned lake. Each site is meticulously detailed to breathe life into your alternate Appalachia. You'll also find 3 complete full-length adventures: Monsters Among Us, Dr. Nathaniel's Traveling Marvelment, and Special Delivery. The 128-page hardcover carries an MSRP of $44.99. Once again, it is out in stores. If you want to bundle that together with the PDF over at Monte Cook Games, you can certainly do so for $50.39. Kind of an odd price there. If you just want to score the PDF, you can do so over at Drive-Thru RPG for $17.99. Very nice. Cool deal. Maybe we'll get an opportunity to take a peek at this, because I have reviewed Old Gods of Appalachia. I liked it. I thought it was pretty well done. Pretty cool. And the thing that really struck me about it was how it does feel authentic. It's not simply, it doesn't feel like, it's like, oh, well, okay, I read this book about Appalachia. Now I can, write role-playing game adventures set there. No, it's got a nice, authentic vibe to the proceedings. And let's see, Flint Fireforge says it's 8 p.m. and it's 100 degrees out. When I lived in Arizona, when I lived in the Phoenix area, first couple of years I was there, I was like blown away by how it would be. Let's say it's like July or August. It'd be 3 a.m. and it'd be 104 degrees out still. It'd be like, oh, man, insane. Moving right along, there is a new Fanatical offer, which includes over 25 third-party 5e D&D tales. And I've got the deets on the Menagerie of Adventure. Set forth on a series of new adventures filled with perilous journeys, forgotten ruins, mysterious dungeons, and more. With this eclectic collection of adventures, mini-settings, zines, and encounters containing 28 RPG books for D&D. Tier 1 offers a taste of what's inside this collection with 3 quick one-shot games for a quick foray into action. Tier 2 unlocks greater perils with a series of modules full of monstrous threats, peculiar mysteries, and unforgettable encounters. Tier 3 holds the full 28 books in this brilliant bundle and sees you traversing deadly wilderness, forgotten tombs, bizarre fantasy locales, and much more. The Menagerie of Adventures RPG bundle is packed with inspiration for game masters and players alike from Menagerie Press. Grab your copy, gather your party, and discover what waits beyond. All these products are redeemed by way of Drive-Thru RPG, and they must be redeemed by June 1st, 2027. Jump aboard for as little as $1, or if you want to go all in and score the entire collection of 28 PDFs, You can do so for $12.99. These savings run through August 20th. So quite a bit of third-party D&D content for $13. Well, a penny less than $13. I'd say that's kind of lucky. Sassy Trekkie says, it's hot in Arizona. Man. So something I have to mention, if you have never lived in Arizona and let's say you live in like New York City, Boston, Chicago, like I spent most of my life, you don't know hot. You do not know hot. When it's the middle of the afternoon and the thermometer is showing 120 degrees and you have a car that does not have tinted windows, you will watch the back window. This happened to me. This is how I know this. So I had an older car when I first moved out to Arizona, and the back window, the plastic started to melt, and it was like there was actual smoke coming. Because I was driving one day, I'm like, the hell is that smell? What's burning? It's like burning plastic. I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, shit. It's the back window. Oh, there he goes. Zarkwan talking about Kuwait. Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's the 132 in the shade. Yeah. Phoenix doesn't get quite there. I think the hottest I ever saw it when I was there was 124. Yeah, nuts. It's absolutely nuts. The Tabletop Scholar is with us. So they are looking forward to tonight's topic. Keith Lewis says, you couldn't pay me to live in Phoenix. You know what? It was wonderful. 7-8 months out of the year, maybe even 9 months. It did start getting hotter. So it was like, when I first got out there, summer was bad. But then once like late August, you'd start getting into what they like to call monsoon season, where it feels like it might rain. Sometimes it does just a little bit. Then it starts cooling off. So I used to love where it'd be Thanksgiving and I'd be hanging out at the pool and I'd be calling, family at home, friends back in the Chicago area. They'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just hanging out at the pool before I start making dinner. Signals from the Core is with us. I believe it's a first-time visit in chat. Said they lived in Phoenix for 5 summers. It's actually been unseasonably less hot this summer so far. Not even hundreds yet this week. Nice. Very cool. In more ways than one. All right, on to our next news piece. The Dwemer Dark tabletop adventure game is up for crowdfunding over on BackerKit. And I've got the lowdown from Octopress Publishing. Can you brave the ancient dwarven depths? In the darkest depths of the ancient dwarven kingdoms known as Dwemer Dark, brave and foolhardy adventurers raid ancient tombs, fight undead, risk death, dismemberment, and decapitation, all for a taste of glory and gold. Powered by songs and sagas from Fari Games. Actually, I think it's Fari RPGs. I think the sell sheet info's incorrect. This classic adventure game leverages modern rules design to create a game that feels both old school and new school, just the way you like it. It features cooperative dungeon exploration and mapping as you explore an ancient dwarven empire long left to dust. It includes a modified Songs and Sagas rule set, rules for magic items, traps, and ancient dwarven curses, a bestiary of foes, new tables for exploration, rules for heritages and classes, over 80 pages of content in a fully standalone and playable game. Plus, an all-new supplement, Alone in Dwemer Dark, contains rules, guidance, and tables for a solo delving experience. It features tools and oracles for scenarios, weather, NPCs, encounters, obstacles, storytelling, action, enemies, location, traps, curses, and more. And that clocks in at over 30 pages. This project is fully funded over on BackerKit. You can reserve copies of both these books in PDF with an at-cost print coupon for DriveThruRPG for a pledge of $12. You only have a few days left to take advantage of this because it ends on July 6th. Fulfillment is expected in late July. So these are PDFs that are all good to go. So you will receive those once the project has ended. I am sharing some interiors from the first edition of this game. I believe it's still all the same. This does have a new cover. And I think there might be some tweaks, but for the most part, pretty similar. DJ Jesse Jedi says, earlier this week, I think it was hotter in Stuttgart than in Phoenix. That is a possibility. That certainly is. I see Peaceful Porcupine is with us. Welcome back. Let's wrap up the news tonight with our final news piece. The Pestilent Adventure for Castles and Crusades is now back in print. And here's the latest from Troll Lord Games. To the south of the famed Blacktooth Ridge lies the East Fallow Hills. There the Caranvasarii, no idea what that is, of Wasserfall plays host to the occasional merchant or adventurer seeking their fortune on that fabled fence to the north. Must be kind of like a caravan market or something like that. When Ignatium the monk arrived, battered and wounded, most shunned him, fearing that he brought evil with him. They were not wrong, for he bore an artifact that was possessed of a mission, and unless someone steps up, all his struggles will fail, and the pestilent unleashed. The 18-page softcover carries an MSRP of $9.99. If you'd like to grab the PDF, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $6.99. And this is going to be tonight's giveaway. That's right. I'm going to give away actually 2 copies of this adventure, and it is going to be for live viewers. So no Memorex. Well, you know what? I'll take that back. We will do a Memorex copy. So I will give away 2 copies of this to live viewers. I will also reserve one for those watching after the fact, even on Memorex. So stay tuned. Trivia question. Actually, it'll be 2 trivia questions, and they will have to do with tonight's topic. How's about that? So there you have the news for tonight. Of course, I mentioned DriveThruRPG a few times. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to stop by DriveThruRPG, Dungeon Masters Guild, Storytellers Vault, Wargame Vault, any of the numerous One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a 5% commission on most of those sales. And all those commissions really do add up, help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. If you are watching live, taking part in chat, be sure to hit the little heart or the, I don't know, what is a bouquet of flowers or the 100%. Show a little engagement there because any little bit helps. And if you're watching on a mobile device and you've got some hype points left, feel free to sprinkle a few onto the video. That also helps as well. Of course, if you enjoy the Gaming Gang, if you find this to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, both here on the channel and at the website, got a couple of other ways that you can help support the outlet. One, make a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Lovely. You can also become a monthly member of our Patreon. You'll find links to all of that down in the show notes. Also in those show notes, you're going to find an invite link to our Discord server. It's absolutely free to sign up. Be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. So during the live shows, I also like to give a shout out to our Patreon members. So a tip of the cap to Ben Oathwaite, Kaval, Kevin R. Smith, Talzek, Peaceful Porcupine, the Tabletop Scholar, Sean O'Donnell, Herman Lutman, Gustavo Cavalho, Kevin King, Game Cat, RPG Munch, Tier 2 DM, Far Adrift, Pete Stracklich, Dan Webb, Tessie Trekkie, Agile Monk, The Madman, and Flint Fireforge. Thank you all very, very kindly. All right, let's see. Have I missed saying hello to anyone? I think I've caught everybody popping on in. So, there we go. Agile Monk's just popping on in. Welcome. Must have heard his name being mentioned with our Patreon members. It's like, my ears are burning. Okay, so let's see. Tonight's topic is going to be apocalypses and how they power, although we're not talking about powered by the Apocalypse Engine games. We're going to talk about apocalypses. I guess we'll use the word drive and how they drive post-apocalyptic role-playing games. So we're going to talk about different kinds of apocalypse scenarios in just a few moments. But I did want to mention once again, I am going to be rolling out that big sale. So it is my, what is it? The Swedish death cleaning sale. I've got to come up with a different name for that. I don't want people to be like, oh, Jeff's dying. He's getting rid of all his stuff. Well, the reality is we're all dying, but you know, it's like, I'm not necessarily doing it that because of that. I just want to clear stuff out and get it into people's hands who are going to use it, who are going to enjoy it, as opposed to kind of collecting dust. And I am going to have it broken down into big sections of like $5 items, $10 items, $15 items. Not everything will fall into those categories, but there's going to be a lot. So, you know, some of the newer stuff is not going to be sitting there for, you know, like $10. Anyway, yes, there you go. Miss Sarah D, the Great Gaming Gang Purge. I don't know, that kind of sounds kind of, yeah, less, that sounds kind of negative too. I don't necessarily want it to sound negative. Anyway, so I am hoping to have that all done and ready to go Sunday. Everything's first come, first served. So if you want something, you got to hit me up. Got to tell me what you want. You're going to have to give me a shipping address so I can give you a total on shipping. And I will probably run that through maybe the first or second week of August. And of course, when I'm at Gen Con, nothing will be going in, nothing will ship or anything like that. But there are going to be loads and there's going to be hundreds of items. No doubt about that. And 100% of what comes in is going to go to the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. So it's all going to be for charity. So grab a bunch of goodies, some items right off the top. I have a copy sitting here, like Down Among the Dead for good old Pirate Borg. I have an additional Pirate Borg starter set. That'll be up there. I've got some Alien role-playing game stuff. Just loads and loads of board games also. So hopefully we can move some of this stuff out of here. I will probably have a section with GMT stuff, but the GMT stuff is not going to go cheap. Probably about half price on them because I can take them to Gen Con, to the auction, and get at least half price on each one. Sometimes I get more than the original MSRP if it's out of print. So there you go. Agile Monk's like, woot! St. Jude's, I give to them. They're a wonderful charity to support. I did a 50-50 sale one time where half of what came in ended up, well, after shipping, of course, I got split with them. If I remember right, I think it was about 400, 450, something like that got donated. So it wasn't bad. It was all right. I don't recall exactly offhand. Other thing I wanted to mention, you may recall, I shared a backer kit preview of the Ghost in the Shell tabletop role-playing game coming to backer kit later this month from Monte Cook Games. If you watch that video, I made mention that, well, I wasn't financially compensated to share that backer kit preview. I wanted to be right up front and point out that Monte Cook Games was sending me a couple of their starter sets for their miniatures systems. And I wasn't sure that that would have been the case if I wasn't doing that video. And they arrived today, so I got a copy of The Walking Dead All Out War Collector's Edition 2024, which includes 30 minis, 11 survivors, as well as 19 zombies. It's got like 4 vehicles and barricades and pretty wild. Got a good amount of heft to it as well. And then I have the Claws in the Sand starter set for Kings of War. And this includes 60 miniatures. So very nice. So we're going to be taking a peek at these very shortly. Agile Monk says, I was worried you were going to purge us subscribers. No, that's not happening. Subscribers tend to purge themselves. Tessie Trekkie says, the Gaming Gang, great leap forward. The Gaming Gang cultural revolution. Flint Fireforge is asking, where will the items be posted? They will be posted on thegaminggang.com. I always make it very plain to see when there is a sale. So if you follow me on any social media outlet like X, Blue Sky, or Facebook, if you are on the Discord, if you happen to take a peek when I post here on YouTube, there will be links. So that's how you will find out. We're probably talking Sunday afternoon ish, because I do want to shoot some video And I also want to try, not for the sale. I mean, I want to get a couple of reviews up. And then basically should point out, I'm just posting pictures of a bunch of stuff. And then I will have the listing of all the different items after that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff that, it's cool. I liked it. I gave good reviews. Some stuff I've just acquired over the years on the cheap. Never even cracked it open. So I'd like to get it out into someone else's hands that they're going to enjoy it. Even if it's just, RPG books, somebody gets a kick out of reading them. Better than just sitting around here, right? Just collecting dust. So there's that. All right. So if you are interested in winning a copy of Castles and Crusades, the Pestilence in the PDF, I've got a couple of questions, and they are both in kind of in the vein of our topic tonight. And that is apocalypse scenarios, the post-apocalypse. Two different stories, right? Okay, so first off, first person give me the correct answer to each of these. Well, I take that back. First person to get me the correct answer on either of these wins, right? So if you get the first question and you are the correct viewer, if you're the first with the correct answer, don't answer the second question. I can't believe I have to explain that, but I do. All right. So our first question is, in the book Seven Eves, what causes the destruction of the human race? And then in The Stand by Stephen King, what is the nickname for the plague? So give me the answer to one of those questions. And first one with the correct answer to either of those is going to be a winner of the PDF. And while you're pondering the answers to that, or you're using your Google foo to find the answers, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Ah, amigos, this Red's beef tamale, it is good. You will like it. It has the true traditional flavor. It teases your taste. Enjoy Red's tamale. Served piping hot at the snack bar now.
Meet your drive-in theater potato expert. He selects only the most magnificent potatoes. Then he turns them into crisp, golden, perfect French fries. Just look at those beauties. Tender and delicious on the inside, golden and crisp on the outside. Wouldn't a heaping helping of them taste good? Sizzling hot and delicious French fries, ready and waiting for you right this minute at your refreshment center. Better buy plenty.
Drive away your worries and cares at this drive-in theater, where you will see the finest motion pictures of all time, soon to be released. Drama, comedy, adventure, excitement, something for everyone. Here's a brief glimpse of some of the truly fine pictures we've scheduled in the near future.
Any messages for me from the White House? Not a thing, Dr. Stone. Well, you have it.
The set you've just seen is the nerve center of a secret 5-story underground laboratory, which is the star of the Andromeda strain my new film for Universal, which is based on last year's best-selling novel. It's the story of the world's first space-age crisis.
We see bodies, lots of them. Stay to stations. Hit that security button.
We need a flyby over Piedmont, New Mexico. Infrared, a FLIR scan, all sectors, film to come direct to scoop.
Too bad he can't tell us what happened. Maybe he can, if he lives.
I recommend calling a wildfire alert.
Yes?
I just wanted to inform you that all members of your team have been cleared and are now being crawled in.
No other way to halt the infection spread.
Are you sure the old man and the baby are still alive?
It's growing.
What the hell are you doing?
Turn off the oxygen. Put him on room air.
No, the air is thick with Andromeda. Experiment with your own light, damn it.
Andromeda will spread everywhere. They'll never be rid of it.
There are now 5 minutes to self-destruct.
The core's equipped for safeguard.
What would my chances be in there?
Well, they don't exist for anyone anywhere if you stay here.
Hey, Doc! You ain't leaving us here, are you? The Andromeda strain, yes. So here's something strange. I remember seeing the Andromeda strain at a drive-in, and I was a very, very small child. The thing is, the Andromeda strain came out in 71. And when it came out, I would have been about 3.5 years old. I don't know. Like, I know it was with my parents, but still, I don't know. And I don't think the Andromeda strain would have been a movie that would have reappeared like 4 years later at drive-ins. You know, so I don't know. Maybe that's the case. Just like I've mentioned before, one of my earliest memories is of a moon landing. Now, I can't tell you if it was Apollo 13, but I do remember watching coverage of a moon landing with my dad on a black and white TV set, because the TV set we had in our living room at that point in time was black and white. So, I don't know. So, the answer to our trivia questions, the nickname for the plague in the stand is Captain Trips. And we had the correct answer from Jamie Dockery chiming on in. And the reason why it's nicknamed Captain Trips, nobody knows. Stephen King has never answered the question of why he came up with that as its nickname. And then in Seven Eves, the destruction of humanity is caused by the shattering of the moon. Zarkwan has that correct. You know, they were supposed to be making a movie of that. Either a movie or a series. And I've never heard anything again about it. I remember listening to the audiobook, and it's actually pretty good. If I remember right, I think it's Neil Stephenson. And the first half of the book, where it's, you know, leading up to the destruction of the human race, essentially, was really good. The second half of it was decent, but it wasn't as good as the first part. Velimir Cleaver says, I don't think that movie would be rated G nowadays. Data Gable says Moon. That spells Tom Cullen. Yeah, another reference to The Stand. All right. So if you are a winner, you know how this works. Shoot me an email to Jeff McAleer at thegaminggang.com from your Gmail account that's affiliated with your YouTube name, and I will get you a copy. I will send you a link for you to grab a copy of The Pestilent Adventure for Castles and Crusades. And of course, one person who either is watching after the fact, maybe on Memorex, maybe it's somebody watching live right now who just didn't happen to take part in the contest, didn't win. You can get a copy. I'll give away one more copy in PDF. Just comment on the video. Just like the video, be a subscriber, and comment. And please don't comment. I'm commenting for the prize or for the contest. I promise you, I will not randomly select comments like that. They do not get put into the hopper, so to say. Anyway, so if you want to win a copy, you still have an opportunity. And then I will reveal the winner next Tuesday on next Tuesday's live show. So tonight's topic is apocalyptic scenarios and how they drive post-apocalyptic role-playing games. And I'm going to discuss three of my favorites. Three of my favorite apocalyptic scenarios. And then we'll kind of take it from there. And of course, if you're watching live and you're taking part in chat, by all means, chime in. Let me know what you think and what are some of your favorite apocalyptic scenarios leading into post-apocalyptic role-playing games. And I see DJ Jazzy Jedi was talking about watching the Andromeda Strain on TV one night with commercials. Yeah, that was a long haul, I am sure. I'm sure that was clocking in over 3 hours. The Andromeda Strain was a minor success. Most of the critics liked it. It didn't get too torn by too many critics. It is pretty slow moving, though. It's a really cool concept. If you're not familiar with the Andromeda Strain, if I remember correctly, it is written by Michael Crichton. And it's a situation where a satellite falls to Earth and it's carrying an alien like microbe. And if I remember correctly, I think it crystallizes your blood if you're exposed to it. And the town that it lands in, all the people get wiped out there because it is also contagious. And there are two survivors. One's a baby that's like constantly crying, almost constantly crying. And the other is a man in his 60s who's an alcoholic. And they're trying to figure out how did they survive? What makes them, different than everybody else? But if the microbe gets out, it could wipe out all of human life. But yeah, like I said, pretty interesting concept. It is, on one hand, it's cool because it is realistic and it does go through the process that would probably take place in a situation like that. And then on the other hand, it is pretty slow moving. So there's that. Okay. So let's talk about our first apocalyptic setting, and that is I guess we could say like contagion or pathogen, such as The Stand as a great example there. That is an example of a situation where, if I remember correctly, I think it's 99.4% of humanity gets wiped out by Captain Trips. So there's also an excellent book, which was made into a limited series for HBO, Station 11. That is also same sort of post-apocalyptic kind of setting. It's like a flu bug that almost like the influenza pandemic, the Spanish flu, as they like to call it. And interesting side note, if you did not know this, the reason why it's called the Spanish flu is because it didn't originate in Spain. In fact, they think that it originated in the United States, but the Spanish press was not under any sort of censorship or anything like that. So the Spanish newspapers were publishing stories that were just like not whitewashed or anything like that, which people thought, oh, well, then it must be from Spain. Now, Bellamere Cleaver asks, what is the movie with the contagious monkey? Isn't that 12 Monkeys? Bruce Willis, Brad Pitt. I think that might be what you're thinking of. Anyway, as far as Stations 11, I gotta be honest, I had tears in my eyes. That the limited series is so well done. And there are like flashbacks, and then actually, I don't even really think it would be considered flashbacks because it's not necessarily like from someone's point of view looking backwards in time, but it does take place at different times. So during the pandemic and then afterwards. But W4 says could be Outbreak. Yeah, there's a possibility there. Outbreak. There's another movie, Contagion, which I got to be honest, I think kind of downplayed what would happen here in the United States. I think things would be a lot more dire than they made it out to be in that movie. Although it's kind of wild to actually see one of the actors who's like one of the big stars of the film dies in it, and you're like, whoa, really? I was like, I didn't see that coming. I was like, wow. So we have the Contagion, which then sets up essentially role-playing games where you could have, like somebody had mentioned, I think it may have been Peaceful Porcupine, had mentioned that they're not looking to do like a post-apocalyptic role-playing game, but they're looking to do something where it's like a colony and things are kind of going wrong. And that would be a perfect situation where, there you go, Velamir Cleaver says, Charlie Sheen died in Young Guns. Yeah, but Charlie Sheen wasn't like a huge star at that point. And I think his brother was maybe a little bigger star. Hell, man, Bruce Willis is dead for the whole goddamn movie, and no. Not going to spoil it. So anyway, with the Contagion, with the like pandemic, that opens up a lot of possibilities. And it opens up role-playing games which are not necessarily going to be survivors versus a particular faction, like aliens or mutants or zombies. It is more along the lines of humanity maybe dealing with a situation where nature is taking back. And that's a concept that I've always been really interested with. Ever since I read a book, gosh, now it's probably got to be at least 20, maybe 25 years ago. And I'm trying to remember the title of it. Life After Us? Something After Us. And in fact, I think the History Channel did a series that was based on this book. And the situation is essentially humans disappear. It's not explained what happens, right? Could have been anything. Could have been the rapture. It could have been we've all been wiped out by something. But man is gone. What would happen to our planet after we're gone, right? Oh, Life After People is the name of the series. I don't believe that's the name of the book. I think it is. I think the name of the book might be Life After Us. But anyway, really interesting stuff. Like all of Texas would be just one huge like firestorm from all the oil wells burning and stuff like that. But anyway, so in like a pandemic situation, that leads you to role-playing games, role-playing situations where it's more of a narrative about the survivors creating a colony, creating their base, as far as diplomacy with other groups of survivors. It would skew more towards realism than like if it's, oh, well, our apocalypse is an alien invasion. And that's why it's one of, at least one of my three more interesting, or at least the three that I find more interesting as far as apocalyptic scenarios, is because of that. Because there isn't that outside, I don't want to say aspect. There isn't that outside driver like zombies or mutants or aliens or whatever. It's simply survival. So I like that. I always dig that. And of course, I mean, if you want to do something like The Last of Us, you certainly can, where it's not necessarily a zombie apocalypse. It's similar, but it is more that, yeah, there you go. Haley Joe sees dead people. It's more along the lines of a contagion that people catch, and it causes that change, which, interestingly enough, that is a really scary situation because it's so very, very close to being reality. It's like, because there are those like fungoids that will like take over ants and just crazy shit, just really weird. And then there's also like most cats have like that spore in their brain. It's like, okay. Velimir Cleaver says, I remember people got mad at me because I supposed spoiled a movie based on a 45-year-old book, Lord of the Rings, Gandalf Resurrecting. Well, I mean, I could see that if people, you know, there are a lot of people who went and saw the Lord of the Rings movies who had never, ever actually read the books. I was not one of them. W. Ford says, sounds like The Happening. Ugh, terrible movie. Yes. No, I'm not saying that that's what it would be. I'm saying, yes, terrible movie. W. Ford says, I always gray out at the 1 hour mark. I have no idea. I have no clue. All I can tell you, as usual, it's got nothing to do with me and everything to do with YouTube. All right. So I covered the contagion. Then, of course, obviously enough, we have to go with the zombie apocalypse. And the one aspect of the zombie apocalypse I always thought would have been the most interesting is the actual first days or weeks of the, you know, apocalypse, really. And we've never really seen it pulled off. When Fear the Walking Dead came out, everybody was like, man, we're finally going to get that whole, how does it all fall apart? And I was watching it. I mean, the show is all right, but it's taking place in LA, and you'd have thought 1,000 people lived in LA. It was like, where is everybody in this? And it was so disappointing. And I was like, okay. Like, okay, that's kind of weird. So a little bit of World Cup watching going on, which is fine. I'm sure there were quite a few people who were hanging out last night with the U.S. match on in the background, or maybe I was on in the background as they were watching the match. But I think, in my opinion, the most interesting aspect of a zombie apocalypse would be the first few days. So Flint Fireforge says 28 days later. But the thing is, in 28 days later, and then The Walking Dead kind of did the same thing. Our main character, he wakes up in the hospital, and it's already happened. It's already taken place. So, same thing with The Walking Dead. Rick Grimes gets shot. He awakens in the hospital, and he's been in the hospital for a while, obviously enough. So we don't see the collapse of, essentially, we don't see the collapse of civilization prior to the overwhelming numbers of zombies. So yes, 28 Days Later does the same exact thing. So Keith Lewis says, all these zombie movies come up against one big problem. The brain degrades completely 6 minutes after death, rendering it useless for transmitting neurological signals. Oh, Keith Lewis got to ruin everything. W. Forge asks, remember those game books, The End of the World? I reviewed one of them from Fantasy Flight. I remember it being a cool concept with terrible rules. I gave it I'm trying to remember which one it was. I don't think it was the zombie one. I think it might have been the Alien Invaders one that I reviewed. And no, I was not positive on that either. It was like, it was okay. And yes, the mechanics to it were pretty undercooked, if I remember. I mean, we're talking this like 14 years ago. So, 13, 14 years ago. But I do remember them. There was the zombie apocalypse. There was the robot uprising. There was also the alien invasion. And then if I remember correctly, one of them was like Food of the Gods almost. I was like, okay. But yeah, I had gotten a PDF of one of them back when I did reviews from PDFs. Okay, so so once again, Keith Ulu had pointed out, well, these zombie movies. Oh, there we go. Gods at War, the Tabletop Scholar points out. So, okay, so we do have, well, I mean, if we're going to apply real physics and science to all our role-playing games, I think we're going to be in pretty deep shit. Nope, sorry, magic doesn't work, guys. That's the end of your Dungeons and Dragons playing. It's over. W. Ford says, I think it was Wrath of the Gods. Yeah, that may have been it. That's very, very possible. But anyway, so as far as like the zombies go, I like zombie stuff. I like The Walking Dead. I did not end up watching the last few seasons. I have not watched any of the spin-offs outside of about, I think it was 3 seasons of Fear the Walking Dead, which actually got better once they got rid of most of the characters from the start of the series. But I didn't watch the final seasons of that. I have not watched like Dead City or Daryl Dixon, anything like that. Although I got to say, weirdly enough, they wrapped up Daryl Dixon. I think that's what it's called. At least that's who the main character is. And Norman Reedus had been playing Daryl Dixon for 16 years. I was like, wow. I mean, that's up there with, James Arness, Matt Dillon. Although I think Gunsmoke was on TV for over 20 years. But you know what I'm saying? 16 years for a character. That's a long time. W. Forge asked, fast zombies or slow zombies? There are reasons to recommend either of those. Okay, so people always talk about like slow zombies, right? Oh, well, I could easily outrun them. And okay, well, but slow zombies don't get you by chasing you down. Slow zombies overwhelm you with numbers. So that's what that is, where it's like there's no escaping them. W. Ford says they're waiting for the space Walking Dead. Fast zombies, like fast movers. Those are like I remember 28 days later and it was like, hey, nice. I was like, all right. Because they're not really zombies. They're infected, right? So yes, I remember watching that. I was like, all right, yeah. I mean, that'd be scary. Another great zombie movie, obviously, Shaun of the Dead. I mean, Shaun of the Dead is funny and it's got some scares in it. I mean, it's legitimately a zombie movie. It's not just like, oh, this is all played for laughs sort of thing. Sometimes in the Winter is with us, says Negan's the best character. Series went downhill after Whisper's arc, though. Yeah, Negan's an interesting character. See, now, I did read the comic through to the end. In fact, I was reading the comic before they were even thinking about making a show out of it. But yes, Negan is an interesting character because it shows that, anyone can truly change. So, but even Negan as kind of a good guy is still more anti-hero than anything else. So anyway, in the comics, the governor is probably just the absolute batshit craziest of the bad guys. Agile Monk, Gunsmoke, 55 to 75, so 21 seasons. Yikes. W4 says George Romero should have stopped with Day of the Dead. I would agree with you on that. One thing I will say, at least George Romero's later zombie flicks were trying to say something about our society, as opposed to, it's just showing a lot of people getting their arms ripped off and people eating shit and blah, blah, blah. Robert Dennis is with us as the comic went downhill after the Whisperer's arc as well. One aspect of the comic book I always thought was pretty cool was that Charlie Adler and Robert Kirkman, Charlie actually did covers for issues after Rick Grimes gets killed. And it was because the whole Rick Grimes getting killed was like a huge shock. It was a big surprise. Nobody knew that was coming. Nobody knew the comic was coming to an end. So they had actually solicited storylines and covers. I think it was like 6 issues beyond what ended up being the final issue of The Walking Dead. I thought that was very interesting. I remember a lot of people were pissed. A lot of people were really pissed off. And funny enough, I wasn't. I was like, holy cow. But I also thought to myself, how much longer can this series really go? Because, I mean, it had kind of jumped the shark a little bit. But, okay, so there is our zombie apocalypse. And I don't know how easy it is to really run an ongoing campaign with a zombie apocalypse. The post-apocalypse with the undead. I don't know. I would think maybe a 6-month campaign would be interesting. I can't see playing years of something like that because you're kind of locked in. I don't know. Kind of curious. I will say that the Walking Dead role-playing game, Walking Dead Universe role-playing game from Free League Publishing is just okay, which I was really surprised. And as I expected, it has not really been, it hasn't received really any support since it came out, which I had a feeling it was going to be the case. W. Forge is asking, what's the best zombie role-playing game? They were a fan of All Flesh Must Be Eaten. I have not had an opportunity to check out All Flesh Must Be Eaten, but if I remember correctly, isn't that the zombie role-playing game that's got like a lot of different source books with different kinds of zombie settings? Like, doesn't it have like a World War I kind of like weird War I zombie setting? And isn't there another one that's like more science fiction in nature? Of course, I might just be making this all up in my head. I don't know. But I thought there was one out there, and I thought it was All Flesh Must Be Eaten, that actually has a good number of splat books for it. Not only with just adventures and things like that, but really kind of pushing the envelope on a zombie role-playing game. Agile Monk says, Dead State is an isometric turn-based role-playing game that emphasizes survival during the collapse of society. Mithras Seasons of the Dead. It's an indie setting for urban wasteland survival horror. W. Forge says, yep, different settings based on other genres. That's what I thought. The Tabletop Scholar, Ashes Without Numbers, is, well, yeah, because Ashes Without Numbers is post-apocalyptic. And it's kind of open to your own sort of apocalypse, really. So we've got Outbreak Undead. So the first edition of Outbreak Undead comes out, and I reviewed it, and the artwork was just god-awful. And I get it. The whole premise was that it's supposed to be somebody sketching stuff. And I had an opportunity. I sat and I talked to the publisher over a few beers one time at Gen Con. At a bar in Indy, just happened to sit there and we were talking. I had no idea who they were. They had mentioned Outbreak Undead, and I said, "Oh yeah, I reviewed that." And they said, "Yeah, I know." I've been hit with that a few times, where it's like I don't know who the person is, and they mention some game, and I'll be like, "Yeah, I reviewed that." They're like, "Yeah, I know. I'm the creator or whatever." So anyway, so we were talking, they were talking about they were coming out with another edition. And the first thing I said is, I hope you're doing away with the artwork. And they weren't pissed at me, but they didn't appreciate me saying that. And I told them, I said, I understand, where you were going with it. But people walk into a store, they're flipping through, they're looking at the book, they're like, oh my God, that artwork is awful. I'm not buying this. As far as Outbreak Undead, its selling point is that it's more simulation than anything else. So if your player character is law enforcement, first responder, they have a far better chance of survival than somebody who is a house husband, right? Or a barista. But I think it's probably a bit too far into the camp of simulation as opposed to being an entertaining game. So that is my take on Outbreak Undead. I reviewed it. You can find my review on thegaminggang.com. Agile Monk talking about GURPS. Tabletop Scholar says, I contacted Free Lagan. Yes, good old Free League last year. They said they had one more release for The Walking Dead sometime this year. still, that's really no support. I say it all the time. I think in some ways, I think Free League Publishing is stretched thin in certain aspects. That's why there are releases that were supposed to be out already that have not come out. So, the Twilight 2000, there's the upcoming, I forget the title of it, but it's a little science fiction-ish. If you want to go in that direction, I'm sure there's ways that you can make it where it's just, straight out modern, kind of a game rather than being science fiction. But as far as that release, that was supposed to be out. Now it's now, at least there's rumblings of we should see it by the end of the year, but I don't think we have any sort of release date yet. Agile Monk says all flesh must be eaten, offers various settings, allows for custom zombie types, flexible gameplay, multiple dead worlds. That was it. Dead worlds to explore. Sometimes in the winter said they played a few games of Zombie Rain with their game developer. Great book if you like Zombie Apocalypse and Shadow Dark. There's multiple outbreak types covered in zines. Nice. W4 says, surprised there's never been a Resident Evil role-playing game. Yeah, that is kind of surprising that nobody's released that IP. Not to say it would necessarily be any good, because, a lot of times we do see some of these licensed IPs not so great. All right, so last apocalyptic scenario. Got to go with it, right? The nukes are falling. So because that drives so many different role-playing games out there, going from the Morrow Project, where the player characters are actual team members who have been cryogenically frozen to be reactivated once the essentially the good old nuclear fallout, the radiation has subsided, so that they can help rebuild society. And it's pretty much just played straight out, where there's no mutants or monsters or anything like that. And then, of course, we also have Gamma World, Mutant Crawl Classics, where, of course, the fallout leads to mutant changes. We've got, obviously enough, Mutant Year Zero, where we don't even have humans in the mix until a few supplements down the road. Zarquan mentions Rifts. Palladium Games is not a company that gets any play around here. So, yeah, we're not fans of Uncle Kevin in these here parts. Clantos mentions Escape from New York. Escape from New York isn't a post-nuclear fallout. Escape from New York is the collapse of the United States. But still, Escape from New York would be cool. I would definitely like Escape from New York. That got a splat book for Everyday Heroes from another company that I refrain from talking about because of some of the things that came out about them. Ellen Rowe is with us. Said, nice to catch a live stream for once here in the UK. Welcome. W4 says, I remember After the Bomb being a decent game. Just joking. If you ever want to find out why I have no time for Palladium, two things. One, go look up their Robotech Miniatures Kickstarter and all the fallout from that. And then you can look to see how Uncle Kevin tried to profit by someone who was working for him who claimed that they were driven to a suicide attempt because of Kickstarter nonsense with Palladium. Yeah. So, yeah. Nope. Although I will point out real quick, talking about After the Bomb led to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles role-playing game. Because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is built off of the well, I mean, a lot of the Palladium role-playing game stuff was all built off the same mechanics. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a natural extension of After the Bomb. In fact, After the Bomb might be a supplement for it, or even like a standalone supplement. Alan Rowe pointing out Twilight 2000 has not been mentioned. We did mention it. We mentioned it, how we've been waiting for, I think it's maybe their final release for Twilight 2000, that it should have been out by now. And we're still kind of waiting around. W4 says Twilight 2000 was their first post-apocalyptic game based on nuclear destruction, and it was played straight. There's no mutations or anything like that. I got to say, GDW, I had the original Twilight 2000. I had some of the splats. My friend Scott Weigel, who on occasion pops in here to chat, he had it, some of the splats. I think our friend Tim may have had it. I think our friend Tim Phelan may have had that as well. Interesting concept. It was very sandboxy. So it was not linear at all. In fact, I think that turned off some people at that point in time, because the adventures that came out, a lot of it was, okay, so here is the premise, here is the situation, here are like the stat blocks and things like that. And then it was kind of like, okay, well, like the Black Madonna as an example. So all of the Twilight 2000 4th edition stuff that's come out from Free League Publishing has essentially been reworkings of GDW stuff. In fact, the release that we've been waiting on is also a kind of like reimagining of some GDW stuff prior as well. But yeah, I liked Twilight 2000. Problem with the original, mechanically super, super clunky. That was the issue there. Super clunky. Some mention of Aftermath from Fantasy Games Unlimited. I had Aftermath, and I remember its claim to fame with myself and Elliot. I don't know if you folks out there like when I float out these little stories about when we were like teenagers playing games, and or we're in our 20s playing games and stuff. But I still float them out there. You're probably like, oh crap, he's doing this again. So I have pointed out that there was a kind of like a game club that met in this community center, which I think was part of a church. And it was in Oak Park, Illinois, which is a suburb that's right next to Chicago. And it's probably best known for being a place that has a lot of homes that were designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. And it was the birthplace of Ernest Hemingway. So anyway, so we used to go, they used to do like a game weekend. That was like a little mini convention sort of thing. So it'd be like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But there were probably all of maybe like 100 people. But it was really cool. I wish we had stuff like that now. Anyway, so they would actually have gaming like every other Saturday or one Saturday a month, something like that. So anyway, so Elliot and I go, and there was one guy that we had gotten to know, and he was, we were in high school, and he was probably 30. And we rolled up characters for Aftermath. And then I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. So I went and bought Aftermath. We never played. It was one of those games where it's like, yeah, we rolled up characters. There were like 8 of us at the table, all creating characters. And I remember I had a stop sign shield. But it was one of those games where it's like, yep, rolled up a character, never played it, owned the RPG, owned some of the splats that came out for it, never ran it. Hey, some mention about Tim Bradstreet's artwork. Yes, in Twilight 2000. Excellent. Ponto says they had a friend run a Call of Cthulhu game based on after nuclear fallout. Cults took over the world, and we had to take it back. Peaceful Porcupine's currently running Tiny Wastelands, if we're listing things. This isn't just a list. The show is more than just a list of stuff. Gamma World. Somebody had mentioned Gamma World's their favorite. Oh, there you go. Cthulhu says it's their favorite post-apocalyptic game, and the 4th edition was definitive. I had the first 2 editions. I never had Gamma World where it had gone like super gonzo, which I'm fine with. I have no problem with that. In fact, I have no idea if we're ever going to finish playing A Time to Harvest for Call of Cthulhu, because it has now been like 2 months since we played, and we're only about halfway through it. And it's like, I would like to get through this because I would like to try to run something a little bit different. And I am looking at something along the lines of like a Mutant Crawl Classics, and trying to do something where it's almost like a West Marches, where it wouldn't necessarily matter who gets to show up for the game, we can still play. Alan Rowe asks, am I wrong, or is paranoia post-nuclear war? I think it is. If I remember correctly, and that's kind of funny because I have a review coming shortly for Brave New Missions. In fact, if you're curious, I also have the Book of Lost Tables review on the horizon. I've got other goodies too. If I remember correctly, Paranoia's got like mega cities almost along the lines of Judge Dredd. And I think the reason why there are mega cities is because there was a nuclear war. Because the threat of nukes is still around. I don't know. Edgemonk says Paranoia is a complete play on post-humanity. I like Paranoia. It's a game like I've been doing the review of The Laundry, right? I did my operatives guide, and then I've got my supervisors. I think it's the handbook, or maybe it's guide. That's another review that's on the horizon. And as far as like humorous games go, unless you're, trying to simulate Saturday morning cartoons with Bugs Bunny and, the Animaniacs and stuff like that, for humorous role-playing games, you got to play the situation straight. Because if you go for the laughs, they usually don't happen. But you gotta stick with, playing it straight, playing it serious, like all the idiots in all the idiot nobles in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. You got to play them like they believe what they're saying to really get the humor to come across, as opposed to just, trying to be funny at the game table. Sometimes the Winter says, haven't tried Western Marches style, but I'm interested in Sword World because it's supposed to have a mechanic to turn no-show players into NPCs for the session. Well, the reality is you can do that with any role-playing game. Turn, no-shows into NPCs. And I have done that. It's been a while. But I think that it is going to have some sort of specific mechanics involved. Because, the reality is any game master could just be like, okay, well, I've got a copy of the character sheet. I'll just be running this character tonight. I don't like to do that kind of stuff. If somebody can't make it to the game, then I'd prefer that their character not be involved. That's why our friend Ed, sorry to say Elliot, but our friend Ed, who was part of the gang who played Call of Cthulhu with me back when we were in high school, and afterwards, he couldn't stay out. He couldn't stay over at Elliot's like I could stay over at Elliot's, or he couldn't stay over at my house like Elliot could stay over. A lot of times his mom wanted him home. So I was famous for running really long sessions of Call of Cthulhu. And then sometimes we would have to drop him off at like 2:00 in the morning after we stopped to pick up something to eat. And then we'd go back to either my house or Elliot's house and continue playing for like 3 or 4 hours till the sun came up. This was summertime. This wasn't while we were, in class and that. And it was funny because it would always be like somehow Ed would have had to have been knocked out, or he somehow got left behind. Because it wasn't, I didn't like, running stuff where it's like, okay, so I got to, run him as an NPC and, oh, hey, Ed, yeah, sorry, that character you've had for 3 months? Yeah, well, sacrifice his life to save everybody. No. Peaceful Porcupine says, I hate running players. It ends up adding to our workload. Yeah, sure does. Certainly does. Anyway, so there you got my 3 favorite apocalyptic scenarios. The contagion, the pandemic, the wiping out 99.4% of the human population. And it doesn't matter if you kind of play it up with the good and evil as far as The Stand does or Swan Song. There's a blast from the past, very similar in style as The Stand. Pretty good book, too. That is a nuclear apocalypse. Yeah. And then it kind of turns into a bit like The Stand, where there are supernatural forces. So you got that. We also have the zombie apocalypse, which can be a lot of different things going on. Me personally, I would probably focus on the early days of the collapse of civilization. And then, of course, we also have the nuclear Armageddon, which I grew up during a point in time where we were worried about that. I saw the day after. I almost said day after tomorrow. It's not. It's the day after. And, It freaked out a lot of people. I remember there were some serious conversations going on in school the next day. And funny enough, it's not as if that risk has disappeared, just not at the forefront of people's minds anymore. Should maybe be, but Quanta says they and their friends did that during the summertime. We call that the good old days. Yes, those were the good old days, all right, of no doubt. Anyway, so like I said, those are my 3 favorite apocalyptic scenarios. There are many, many of them out there. Alien invasion, that's one that we haven't really tackled. You could even throw in like the Rapture. That would be another example. Like The Leftovers, what a great show that was. What a fantastic show that was. Something based on that would be awesome. So just loads and loads of different angles to wiping out most people on our planet. So there you have it. All right. That is it for this time out. If you're watching live, taking part in chat, thank you very kindly. Because not only are you keeping me company, you're also keeping each other company while I'm sharing the news or, rattling on about a topic that we're going and tackling for the evening. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. I appreciate you taking time out to watch any of the over 2,000 videos here on the channel, even though now it just shows there's like 1,500 because there were over 500 that were unlisted. Those videos still exist. They are still here. They haven't disappeared anywhere. I see J-Man has popped on in. Good to see you. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Of course, if you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell because it'll not only let you know when I stream the Dispatch Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. It should also inform you if you select all notifications when I share other videos, such as my backer kit preview of the Ghost in the Shell tabletop role-playing game, coming to backer kits later on this month for Monte Games. Enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Have a great rest of the week and weekend. I will be back on Tuesday. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, I certainly hope each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.